So it's funny because I read like only 2 pages of it. So it's like, well,
Amazing.
so the story, I think, without me knowing I was going to write about it, but I think it's the the results or the consequences of the pandemic in children. And so the the story is about a boy, a child. So it's like the character is the innocent.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a child, and then like what he needs is a family, is older, and then he goes into the world of video games. That's where he finds that place. Like it's not outside, a place of connection, of being, and then the search is like it's a place where he belongs to, and then he finds a friend that's always a friend that is supporting him, and is always calling him and is making him feeling important and acknowledged. The take is because he gets so much into the video games, he's separating himself from reality and from his world and his life. And so he's losing the connection with his family. And then the return is like the grandfather is helping the child understand that life is not what you see in the video game. Like life is something different, and the change is like he understands that that life might not be perfect, but it's like love at the end is what moves everything. So while I was writing it, like somehow it comes like the idea is a narrator. So it's always taking like parts of it, just telling like, and the things like a child, like a normal any child in any city, in any house. So it's like just trying to be this child as a general child. And then the narrator is talking in third person and just saying things like, he speaks a language that his mother doesn't understand, and then it's like, for instance, like, get him. I got these kids. I'm going to kill them. So it's like, then like how the language that the child is using is affecting the mother. It's like seeing like how this very lovely child is becoming somebody that she doesn't understand. So I'm mixing like the narrator going into saying what is happening, then like you will see the child speaking, saying something, and that how the mother is feeling. So the narrator is going into that, and then just now I was going there will be some parts that it could be a bit lyric, like Lorca, Federico Garcia Lorca.
Yeah.
So it's like I brought something at the end, like so what he was doing in some of his plays is kind of like you talking to the moon or you talking to someone, so like oh child, like a bit of poetry.
Yeah.
So it just came something like that. I was like, oh child of the moon, child of the desire, don't talk like that. So it's gonna be this kind of, and I'll leave it there.
Nice, really strong. There's like that, lots of places to go and explore. Like, does he get lost in the computer game? That you like, almost there's a moment where you enter into the computer game and the whole thing becomes like a computer game with that sort of, choose your computer game, but can take on that style and the music and all of that sort of thing. The language, there's something really fun and interesting to play with, and something really massive, like how the pandemic has affected children, and so there's loads of research and people talking about that. There's an organisation called Play First UK, which is about how children they don't need more school, they need more access to creative play to sort of help them recover and deal with all the things that they've experienced. But that insight into what it has been like for children to experience this, just this is happening, you're not seeing your friends with no explanation, and to see it from the child's perspective could be really interesting. And it also that's a massive theme of child growing into an adult, and we as parents kind of feel like we're losing the little one that we could, that journey of change. And as a society, we have a funny relationship with aging and all of those things. And so there's kind of the turning from a child into a adolescent or a young adult or whatever, there's loads there. Similarly, think about who you are as the narrator. There's obviously the mother is of sort of strong, but could equally be like someone who's done the research and is presenting this in a kind of very clinical way about this is as we've studied this child and this is what's happened, just to kind of give you some distance, and then that allows you kind of to then enter into the kind of playful child's world. It gives a sort of opposition. Just think about different ways, you know, you could have recognizable artifacts of masks and gloves and all these things, a hand sanitizer, and then use those objects to then they turn into a computer game, or they turn into toys, or become, like, you start telling the story using the hand sanitizer or whatever, you know, like the rubber gloves, you can blow them up and turn them into something. I don't know, just things to think about. My provocation for next week, make it worse. So whatever the things that you've established, like, make it worse. So any kind of turmoil the child is going through, put more pressure on all of the situations. The grandparent, do they die of COVID? Something like that. Kind of really push it. Very nice. Jamie.